ever since the Tirana Digital Nomad Festival to invite you. But then, stuff happens, and I was a little bit late when I invited you, and then I think you were busy. So
Yeah, sorry. December in our industry, like anything up to mid-December, is very hectic and very busy because we have a lot of deliverables, and everyone is trying to finish things. So I lost track of that. So sorry for that.
Yeah, no problem. I understand. But thank you. And as I was telling, I followed you, I connected with you on LinkedIn, and I saw your post, which a little bit hit me when you said that I'm canceling my flight, I'm staying in Albania, when everybody, not everybody, but most of Albanians think about going abroad. Yeah.
It's very normal, though. I'm still intact with in contact with a lot of Albanians, and most of them are like, we want to go abroad. And I originally come from South Italy, where you have a very similar mindset in terms of like everywhere else is better. And I think that's nothing wrong with it. Maybe we need to have that more. I've been advocating that for years, that we should travel more and get to know places. And even in a place like Albania, I see a lot of people that have been abroad come back and spend considerable time there. But of course, you don't know it. You only get the press, and you only get the things that go wrong. And our impression is always that the grass is always greener on the other side, right? So, yeah. And I'm sure I haven't seen the really bad things in Tirana or in Albania yet. So eventually.
But there's bad things everywhere, so.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, before we go back to Albania, I just wanted to know a little bit about your background, because you were a digital nomad before. I believe there was a time where you transitioned. So let's talk about that time.
Well, I grew up in Germany by Italian parents, so in some ways I've always been an expat, an immigrant. But Germany wasn't for me, and then I started traveling. So I lived a little bit everywhere in the traditional way of being an expat, not a nomad. So I lived in England, I lived in Dubai, and eventually I made my way to Australia, where I lived for 9 years. And through my job, I was fortunate that I could actually see many different sides of Australia. Australia is such a big, we say country, but technically continent. So I lived there for 9 years. And when I returned to Europe, I was almost, I became a nomad by accident, because COVID was happening everywhere, and the numbers and the restrictions were changing almost overnight. So initially I planned to relocate to Madrid in Spain, which is one of my favorite cities, my frequent living cities, I call them. But the numbers were so high that at a time with my partner, we decided to go to Greece instead and spend the winter on Crete, on an island there. And when we were there, we were thinking about, well, why do we decide on a country now when actually I'm working remotely, you're looking for a fully remote job as well, which is by now. And why not just take our time and travel and be nomads and go from there? So we started that way. And eventually I realized that I really loved it, but I also really loved being a slow nomad, not a nomad that changes the destination every month, but a nomad that takes time to really get to know the cultures and the places and goes back to them quite frequently. So at the moment, I'm spending my time between Portugal and Madeira Island, which is sunny even in the winters. Albania, I've spent quite a bit of time last year in Albania, and I say Albania, but technically it's Tirana. I'm going to spend some time now in Vlora, where we have a project starting. And then I also have my frequent living cities, like Madrid that I was mentioning. I love Madrid. I couldn't live there, but I like to be there for a month or two a year. I find it really inspiring in doses, like not in too much. It's too hectic. There's too much going on. But for a month or two, I think it's a great source of inspiration.
You mentioned that you're a slow nomad. So does this happen because you have a job that requires, I don't know, Does this affect your balance of working and traveling and exploring, or does this happen because you want to stay too much in a place and explore it like deeply?
It's more the latter, yeah. So my job, I could do it from everywhere. It's not really, except when I have physical, presentations. Of course, when I need to be on site. But that could be a travel trip for a few days and come back anywhere I'm based. No, it has more to do with the fact that I want to get to know the cultures and to get to know the places a bit deeper. And for my work-life balance, I also find it a lot easier. I find that when you are in a new place, it takes you a little bit of time to really adjust and get to know it and get your hang of how to move around. And when you change every few weeks, it's really, I find it stressful. And it's for me, it's the worst of both worlds, where you're mainly only superficial in one place and you don't get to know really the place. So there are different ways of doing it. Everyone has their own formula. And there's nothing wrong to get to a place and decide that's not for you and you leave again. But on principle, I like to go to destinations where I can see myself living there for some time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was the festival your first time in Albania?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so how was your first impression when you came here?
Honestly, my first impression was a funny one, because I started traveling to go to some weddings in South France and Turkey, and the festival was finalized while I was traveling already. So I had very limited time to prepare. I had heard from Lona, I had seen some posts from Lona on LinkedIn, how amazing Albania is. But I knew very little about it. So I was like half curious. And when I got there, I really enjoyed it and really loved it. I couldn't believe how close it was from the architecture and from the style of living to South Italy. And of course, some say we are the true cousins, and I know why now, because I felt very comfortable. And I've only had it in a few places where I've been, where I arrived and I felt like I had this homey feeling. Yeah.
But you have been to many other countries. Like, what do you think it's the difference, or where does Albania stand compared to other countries?
It depends what you are looking for and how you define it. But for me, if I look at Central Europe, Central South Europe, it has very nothing really to how you call it, to subtract to any of those countries. It's like it's on par with any of those countries. It's very interesting for me. It's still a hidden secret, so I'm very happy to have found it when maybe not everyone is talking about it, like it might be in 2-3 years. Like Portugal was maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, when it wasn't on the agenda of everyone as a nomad destination. So it's been really interesting to see that. And I've said it before, and I say it again, for me, it should be the first digital nomad country, because it has everything that nomads are looking for, or remote workers. So it's up to Albania to change the image and to really showcase itself for what it is, and not what.
In terms of that, what do you think? What are the things that nomads are actually looking for when they visit a country?
Well, it's super safe. It's relatively affordable. People are friendly and welcoming. The food is great. Internet is stable and good. So, like, those are the basics, right? But then you have decent weather, and the people are just awesome. Like, I felt really, I didn't really feel like an expat in Albania, which is, it's really nice. You arrive somewhere and everyone is welcoming and open to help. So that's a great feeling to have.
So you believe you had all the facilities, but do you think maybe something should change? Maybe something that you have seen somewhere else and you would like to like be here?
Well, of course. One of the things that I see and I always see is like the community is really make and break. And at the moment, it's not really existing. So if I compare it to Portugal, to Madeira Island, where I am at the moment, there is a massive community. There is community events almost every day. Like yesterday, I was at a meetup. Every Thursday there is a meetup where I can meet other nomads and like-minded people. So all that part is really missing in Albania at the moment. And of course, the process of becoming a resident nomad in Albania is still a bit bumpy, and you need some work. So those things are things that need to be fixed if Albania wants to compete. Because the reality is, like, all these things that I mentioned are great things, but there are other 20 countries that can do that I can think of, and probably there are many, many more, right? So, I mean, my story, how I landed in Madeira, for example, is not too dissimilar. I was looking at a few countries. Madeira was relatively simple, was relatively easy, was affordable. And at the time, I wanted to spend the summer in Italy. Italy was expensive, was complicated. And as a result, I just decided to spend 3 months in Portugal instead of Italy. So it's the same with Albania, and you have a lot of competition in the region. And people that have no emotional attachment to it, for them, it's just another number of country that they want to visit at the moment, right? Once they've been there, maybe it's different, but to attract them, we need to get them to the point where we really think, okay, this is the place I want to go. And if, as an example, Georgia is super simple in the process and Albania isn't, and I have not been to both, and I have no way of differentiating it for it, then I'm probably going to go to Georgia first and then go from there. And I may never get to Albania. So that's the part where that gets complicated. The second part is retaining nomads. And for me, that's the infrastructure of the community and what's happening in a country or in a city that really makes a difference. So having someone as a point of contact, having somehow a formalized structure on that's really what people are looking for. And it needs to be as easy as possible. People don't want to go the extra mile of having to read through stuff and apply and get a translator and find the formula and send an email. I just want the one click. I want to click on it. I want to fill out a form and apply for it, rather than having to do the tiring email back and forth, waiting for someone to be in the office and so on.
Actually, when we developed the platform Albania Tech, we also had this vision for this section that would be about digital nomads, because we wanted to attract as much digital nomads to Albania. And it has really been difficult to find you in a way, because you seem separated, not in groups. So I don't know if you have a tip or something. Where can we find digital nomads?
It's a really good question. Whenever I travel to a new destination, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, but Facebook is the way to go in terms of the first contact. Once I'm integrated in a community, Facebook, I almost don't look at it anymore. But that's usually the first group of contact. WhatsApp groups are always big. So even here on this island, we have maybe 15, 20 different WhatsApp groups out of interest groups. In Tirana, we have 2 at the moment, for example. And then there are the expert communities, and then there are the other communities. But I think on the Facebook chats, to have a really strong community, when I was literally looking at different places, I started chatting in Madrid, Tbilisi, Tulum, Madeira, and Tbilisi and Madeira stood out immediately, because you could see that there was something happening on that Facebook group, on the community. Everyone was very active. So for a nomad, that's something that, okay, something is happening there. In Tulum, for example, where there's a lot of nomads, Facebook didn't seem to be working that well. And I have friends that absolutely love it. I have some of the friends that were with me in Tirana now there at the moment, and they're loving it. But yeah, I think Facebook groups, LinkedIn not so much. Instagram is another avenue that I see. But then it depends, like what kind of nomads are you looking for? Because nomads is like saying all black people or white people, you know, it's like all male or female or people with long hair. So they're not all the same. It's there are many different variations of it. You know, even at the festival in Tirana, you could see you had different shades of nomads. Yeah.
Since you were also at the festival and many actors of the ecosystem were there, I believe you've had time to chat with some of them and meet some of them. Do you have like an overall opinion on the startup ecosystem?
The startup ecosystem seems quite raw at this stage, quite early stage, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It usually means there are opportunities that not many people are looking at. It seemed very early days, but that also makes sense. I mean, you look at except the US where it's very developed, and some other spots, most of the rest of the world is playing catch up on those things. So I'm not surprised.
Okay, so I believe we like settled this question, but I'm just gonna ask you one more time. Would you suggest Albania to your friends or to people you know as a digital nomad, but also to visit as a tourist?
Absolutely, I've had so many people already going there based on their recommendation that visited me or came with me or came or went there based on that. And more. So for me, it's always front of mind. It's my number one recommendation this year. I keep saying it to everyone. So it's one of those. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for the interview. And I expect you to be here soon, I believe.
Yes, in a few weeks, the latest.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We have a project starting in Vlora with an hotel where we'll turn the hotel into a digital nomad village. And we'll be inviting nomads to come for long stays. And we'll have meetups there as well. So yeah, it's starting at the end of the month.
Okay, I didn't know about that. But if you need help or anything from us as Albania Tech, we would really like to be like supportive of anything.
Let me send you the landing page and the brochure. And then we're literally just starting out. We are helping the hotel organizer that reached out to us to create this village. And so we just started, and we're hoping to have this as a repeat. It's a soft launch this year. We're hoping to make this the home for nomads in Vlora in the next years. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, other people in other interviews have also mentioned that they wanted more groups and also more events and activities for nomads. So I think it's really a good opportunity.
Yes, that's definitely needed. I can only make the example here in Madeira, where for me it's one of the best examples of it. But Tbilisi is also the same, and other hubs are the same, where you have almost every day there is some sort of activity. And by activity, I don't mean going partying, right? I mean, you know, on Monday there is sports, there's different sports activities. On Tuesday there is a lunch. You know, again, on Wednesday there's different things, different activity in sport and hiking, in yoga, in stretching, and all of that. And then on Thursday there is an evening meetup. On Saturday morning there is a workout, a CrossFit, which is free for the community. So there is touch points 3-4 times a week at least, regardless of your interest. And there are probably around 15 activities every day that you can jump in different parts of the island. So where you have a city like Tirana, where it's designed for walking, it's perfect. You know, you can easily have that. At the moment, everything is shattered. So I know of 2 different meetups on a Friday, 2 different meetups on a Thursday. There's no structure. You go to one, you can't go to the other. And it's all over the place. So a central point, a source of information, that would be amazing. Someone looking after the community, someone actively managing it, that would make a difference. Because no one wants to annoy people, disturb them, or ask for a favor. So if there's someone centrally taking care of that and engaging it, that would be amazing.
Of course. Is this being done from a group of digital nomads, or is this also an initiative of local people?
It depends where you are. So here, the government is providing some support. I mean, here in Portugal, but most of the initiatives are then started by nomads. So I was part of we created a football group. For example, we pray now 4 times a week. We are around 80 people in the WhatsApp group. I created a plant-based eating group where we go and we try to influence restaurants to open to offer more vegan options or plant-based options. And we are around 40 people now. And we do like lunches and dinners once a month. So those are directly operated and opened by us as nomads, as giving back and volunteering. And then there are some central points of contact which are managed by the community managers. So the Tuesday lunch that I mentioned, the Thursday hangout, the Saturday workout, they're actually designed and managed by the community managers, which again also volunteers. I think some of them get free accommodation to be here. But yeah, some of them are locals that used to be in England, for example, and are now back in Madeira. And some of them are nomads that are traveling and made this a base. Yep.
Okay, I hope it will be something alike here in Albania too. And I wish you all the best, and let's keep in touch even when the initiative in Laura opens, so we can have maybe another interview with updates for that.